David Benavidez versus Caleb Plant. And in this video, we're going to be doing a breakdown on how I think the fight is going to go, how it's going to play out, the common sequences, the common patterns, and why they're going to be like this. So first off, we're going to take a look a little bit at Caleb Plant here and talk about a little bit of his style of approaching the line. Number one, he approaches the line with the kind of bladed stance with his left shoulder forward, and he doesn't usually use his lead hand to block punches, to stop punches from being able to land, specifically the right hand to the head. So he approaches the line here with these feints, but he keeps his lead hand down, stopping him from really being able to control the line with anything other than this stepping jab here, right? Now, he is pretty fast, and he is pretty good at creating a 2-foot punching structure where he can get into position to punch, leap into it really quick, no counter, really quick, no counter, really quick, no counter. But it doesn't mean that he's always going to be safe just because he can achieve his front foot footwork structure quite often. Okay? Now, again, Caleb Plant likes to use that lead hand control style. Boom, a little bit of feint, a little bit of here. But we can see not a lot of defense with his lead hand, right? And again, finding himself into a position where after he's used all his stepping, gets easily slipped around here by Canelo, who can cross his line because he knows that he only has to worry about the jab. Coming through here, again, Canelo finding a way to weave through the line and make it past Caleb Plant's lead hand. And because Caleb Plant doesn't keep his left hand up here, he doesn't have an opportunity to interact with the rear hand from Canelo. And Canelo's able to land a really, really big shot right here for almost no reason other than Caleb Plant always tries to stay in this bladed stance. A few things to note about that. He doesn't really get into a position where he gets his rear shoulder forward and he can throw his rear hand and control the line as quickly as he can throw this punch. Now, we're going to be talking about that a little bit when we look at David Benavidez. But as we see Caleb Plant moving around the ring here, notice how he's moving around, kind of crossing his feet a little bit. He's not in really boxing stance, but he's still not having his lead hand up in a position that can interact with his opponent's rear hand, okay? And if Canelo wasn't so much shorter than Caleb Plant, this would have been a big problem for him, except for that Canelo's not like really also a rear hand probing, rear hand punching kind of fighter either for first contact. He's more like 1-2s, pendulum in. However, when we take a look at somebody like David Benavidez, this is one of the things that they're best at, okay? Now, we're not going to look at this clip real quick. We're going to take a look at a bunch of other clips here. Let's start we'll start here real quick. In round 3, we've got David Benavidez taking a step onto the line, getting his foot down, taking a step here. Now, as he takes this step, he's creating a 2-foot punching structure, so he can blast out of this punch really quickly by getting his lead foot planted. Boom. And now he's going to take a step here, and now he's able to enact the same exact structure. Takes a step on his front heel, right? Now he's planted, and now he can explode into this shot. And if we take a look at Davis here, Davis is also having a trouble here getting his left hand up, taking his weight from the back foot here toward the front foot, and getting timed by Benavidez, who is taller, right? This is very important because Caleb Plant keeps his lead hand down, this punch is going to be extremely valuable for David Benavidez, okay? And now, as the fight goes on, he continues circling, walking through. Again, 2-foot punching structure, flat foot here. He's going to be on the ball of the back foot, and he's able to let off another punch here while he's walking, okay? No break in his rhythm, no break in his body mechanics, just gets to the line immediately and is able to land and throw this punch. Now, very important here. As we look at the lead hand of Kyron Davis, as he gets to a very similar 2-foot punching structure, he's about to blast off into his jab, very similar to Caleb Plant. But when he goes to control the line with his jab and not a block, he doesn't interact with the punch or the way that Benavidez is going to control the line, and it allows Benavidez to land a really, really nice rear hand probe against him. Okay, now this is very, very, very important going forward because David Benavidez, this is his favorite punch. This is one of the punches that he's the best at. Wait, we're going to save this clip here real quick. We're going to go back to this one. But as we see here, again, walking, taking a step. He's got 2-foot punching structure, flat foot here, ball of the back foot. He's bringing his rear shoulder forward, and he's able to land this punch right over the top of Davis's hand, right? And Davis constantly not allowing or not able to stop Benavidez from getting into a position to let this punch go, and then also takes a step, gets to the front foot here, and he can step into his jab here. Again, Benavidez able to throw either punch from his correct 2-foot punching structure, right? And again, If you guys want to learn more about this, check out the Fouts Boxing Combat System on Vimeo in the description below. If you want to learn all the ways to get on the line, use your kinetic chain, not just to learn to use your feet correctly, which is a whole exercise, a whole thing, right? Which allows David Benavidez to be quick. Caleb Plant uses a very similar technique. However, he cannot get his rear shoulder to the line and throw punches like Davis can, or like Benavidez can. As we see, Benavidez can get his rear shoulder forward, whereas Caleb Plant is always bladed with his shoulders facing this way, which allows him to get to this position to connect the line with his rear hand. Now, if you guys want to learn all the best ways to do that, check out the Fouts Boxing Combat System. Not only will I teach you the best ways to train your feet, but I will teach you the best ways to train your hands. I'm going to teach you what to do with your hands, your feet, your shoulders, your head, every part of your kinetic chain so that you can develop maximum power, okay? Anyway, as we continue in the film study, again, this is one of Benavidez's prime sources of offense here, as he can chase this guy down and again get to this position and blast into this punch, again using both of his feet to drive his weight forward, giving him extra speed, extra power. And even though people think, right, oh, he's telegraphing, he uses both feet, whatever, there's no telegraph here when you do it really well, okay? You can hide it. Only when you train do you really exaggerate it, but he's able to find a way to hide those moves fighting Kyron Davis, and it allows him to get on the line really quickly and really efficiently and let lots and lots of these punches go. As we can see, letting the shot go, even though he didn't land this one, it's in the first round, it's not a big deal. We see subsequently, as the sequences go on, he starts landing more and more and more, with more speed, more power. And again, Kyron Davis has a very similar guard in a lot of spaces to Caleb Plant. Now again, more front foot dominant. He's going to time him on the front foot, blasting him again with his excellent structure here. Down, up, right? Now, he could obviously be getting more power, but this punch is mostly to control the space and time his opponent, not necessarily just to do damage. But a lot of really, really great stuff here from David Benavidez. Now, as we continue looking, we're going to take a look again. Here's very Caleb Plant-like style jabs from Davis, right? Now, Davis is not as fast as Caleb Plant, okay? So he lands that punch there, kind of interacts with that punch, gets to this side, gets to the other side. And again, because Caleb Plant can't really control the line with anything other than his lead hand, he doesn't really use his rear hand like Benavidez does, he's having a hard time finding an opportunity to make him pay for this slip, make him pay for this slip, and then once Benavidez is able to do that, weave his way through the line, he's able to get on his line and just fucking go apeshit, okay? And that's something that's going to be very, very, very dangerous for Caleb Plant, because Caleb Plant has a habit of allowing his opponents, once they get past his initial jabs, to get on the line with them. And this is a very, very dangerous place for somebody like Caleb Plant. As we see here, boom, he catches this punch here, countered Canelo, beautiful. Right? Beautiful. But now Caleb Plant gets very comfortable. Here's his jab. That's all he has to control space. He doesn't usually use his right hand. He uses right hand in that sequence as a catch and counter. But now he's on the line with Canelo, and Canelo just explodes into a random left hook, and he's able to catch him. Again, without a way to control space, without having an active guard, without crossing the line, transitioning his weight, changing positions, Caleb Plant winds up staying in this position for much too long, and without constantly changing beats, Canelo's able to just explode on him and land this punch basically for free, okay? And it's something that continues to happen in Caleb Plant's fights, as we see it in the final sequence of the Canelo fight, when Canelo's able to just jump on his line with the kind of leaping left hook and knock him down and hurt him. But we can also see that because Caleb Plant usually guards the line with straight punches, he also anticipates a lot of straight punches. And when he goes to guard this line, he winds up being very open to the kind of leaping left hook here. Now, Benavidez has a pretty decent leaping left hook as well. And I think, again, that's going to be a very big problem for Caleb Plant because of the fact that Benavidez can probe the line with either hand. And that means he can get a reaction with either hand, and then he can move into a leaping shot when he is able to get Caleb Plant out of position, trying to reach for jabs. And again, Caleb Plant has a habit of just waiting on the line after you get past his his initial jab, right? He's no longer trying to control the space with the jab. We can see that this block, it's not level. It's not on the level. It's a very, very bad block here. There's space around the guard, but he also doesn't even use it that often. Okay, very, very important to understand or to pay attention to. Now, again, after he gets past the initial jab defense, right, he gets under that one, comes back with a counter, and then comes back with another leaping shot. And again, you can see that Caleb Plant is trying to jab, and he winds up getting hit with a much, much better, much more powerful shot from Canelo, who's, kind of outboxing him a lot in those sequences. Now, again, as we can see, he just allows, after you get past his jab, he just allows you to get on the line with him. And that's where David Benavidez, in spite of the fact that he was so good looking with those probes, with those straight right hands, so good with those stepping jabs and those controlling jabs when he gets into his striking position, this is where David Benavidez gets the most value out of his punches, right? Being able to stay in this position, and he doesn't use as much manual control as Canelo here, right? Controlling his head and then smashing him to the body. But he throws lots and lots of combinations, okay? And that's very, very, very important when you think about what's going to happen in Canelo, because very similar, see him sitting on the line here? Benavidez is able to smash him with this shot basically for free, just by getting into the correct punching structure, and then again, smash him for free. And Caleb Plant has a habit, once you get past his jab, of just letting you on the line with him. And as we can see, David Benavidez is already primed. He's already ready to take advantage of that stuff, so he can just jump onto your line, find a way to get back, boom, 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 and just start smashing you, okay? Now, this sequence here is how I basically think that the fight is going to wind up going. Benavidez is southpaw here, but don't pay too much attention to that, right? Boom, he's going to switch, shift, right? Another probe, keep pushing his opponent to the back ropes, right? Keep pushing him back with these probes. And again, as he comes forward, 2-foot punching structure, strike. He comes forward, 2-foot punching structure, strike. And now he's got him all the way on the ropes, controls him a little bit, finds a free body shot, and he's ready here to pull away from the counters. Something that we don't always necessarily notice right away when he's moving, because he kind of looks so lumbering right here, right? When he goes to throw this punch here, boom. Does he look like he could defend his position? But we can see that after throwing those punches on the ropes, he clearly is, boom, 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 pull, right? Very, very quick. And again, great structure, okay? And then he can come back and start blasting you when he gets you on the ropes, okay? And this sequence here kind of is basically how I expect the fight between Caleb Plant and David Benavidez to go. Now, there are a few little caveats here, okay? Number one, Caleb Plant is a very athletic and explosive-ish fighter, okay? What do I mean by that? Well, he's not a great puncher per se. I have seen him practicing his punching power. There also hasn't been a lot of film of him training since his Durrell fight. But I believe that he has been improving his power, okay? Now, why is that important? Okay, well, number one, you've probably heard the story about Floyd Mayweather sparring Paul Spadafora back in the day, right? He came into the Mayweather gym, won some sparring, and it was one of the first days in Mayweather's camp, and Paul Spadafora, the camp, were like, oh, he just beat Mayweather's ass. He kicked his ass. And Floyd Mayweather Sr. was talking about it. Well, it's his first day in camp, right? You're never as sharp. You're never as fast. You're not on your game. You're not as strong as you're going to be in a few weeks. You're not as quick. You're not as good with your – I don't want to say you're not as good with your timing, but you're just not as strong and fast as you're going to be when you're ready. Now, I don't know how often Caleb Plant sparred with David Benavidez or sparred in that camp or, in their training sessions. But Caleb Plant is the kind of guy that peaks, right? Because he's not particularly of a hard puncher. He's fast because of his athleticism, and he does create a decent 2-foot punching structure and has a decent stepping jab. But those are all things that are most optimized when you're in your final form. You're in your final shape. You're the most strong. You're the most fast. And that's when it's the most combat ready. And that might mean that there might be some rounds early in the fight that David Benavidez struggles a little bit with the actual speed of Caleb Plant, when he's actually trying to go quick, or he's actually, now I don't know if Caleb Plant's an asshole in his sparring and he just goes hard with everybody and tries to knock him out, or he goes in there and plays and he goes light. But someone like Caleb Plant is going to have a lot of really shitty sequences if he's going light in sparring. Okay? And it makes me think that I'm kind of not sure if David Benavidez has actually been in the ring with Caleb Plant, when Caleb Plant's, I don't want to say, oh, when he's 100%, right? But when he's actually ready for a fight, okay? And there have been a lot of fighters in history that talk about this idea, like Tommy Hearns would go into training, get beat up the first week or two, and then start knocking everyone out, right? No one could stay in camp with him. He'd be too fast and too sharp and hit too hard. And, the same thing with Sugar Ray Leonard. It's just very common to need time to get in shape, especially when you have such a limited style as Caleb Plant. Now, David Benavidez has been dropped by left hooks before. Caleb Plant's best punch is the left hook. If Caleb Plant has a shot at winning this fight, it's going to be with the left hook, or maybe the leaping left hook, so he can control some space and keep Benavidez off of him. And maybe he could win a decision, maybe. And that's I want to say that's only if David Benavidez hasn't been in the ring with a 100% Caleb Plant. If he knows what that looks like, if he knows what that feels like, and he might, because his chief sparring partner used to be Bivol, right? Bivol used to be his chief sparring partner, and Bivol is a way better fighter than Caleb Plant. He's better with the jab. He's better with the 1-2. So in theory, maybe Benavidez has already sparred 1,000 rounds with a better version of Plant. However, their styles are a little bit different, and the rhythm and timing to catch Plant is just a little bit different. Okay, and that might be the only real variable here, is that David Benavidez is the kind of guy, he's probably never too far away from his prime, right? A lot of the stuff that he does is really just fundamentally really sound, even though he's not necessarily like a huge puncher, right? He's bigger than everyone he fights. So he's like, I don't want to say he's a weight bully in his division. He's still moving and growing up. He's still a young guy. But he's bigger than everyone he's fought before. He's not necessarily like a huge knockout puncher, but he has really good structure, really good use of his kinetic chain from the ground up. And because he uses it correctly, even though he probably trains in a lot of ways that are, like, I don't want to say unconventional, but like, you guys can watch his training and stuff. It's pretty decent. I don't imagine that he's ever, like, I don't want to say super out of shape, because he's never really cut. He's never really jacked, right? But he's usually probably pretty close to his peak. And I think that's really interesting, because he's not in shape. Because he's not ripped, because we can see that he's not as strong as he could be. Okay, now David Benavidez, I don't think he's the kind of guy that tires, right? He works out really hard. He trains super fucking hard. And, however, I am just a little bit curious whether or not he's going to have the speed at all times in the ring, because even Caleb Plant made Canelo look kind of ordinary in a lot of the sequences, and a lot of the times where Canelo was like, okay, well, I can't beat him out here. Let me just wait till I get him to the ropes, when he just lets me walk onto his line and smash him, right? Now, with that said, David Benavidez has all the tools to really use that rear hand probe, cross Caleb Plant's line, and just smash him and stop Caleb Plant from being able to box him on the outside. Even though they have like a 40-foot ring or some shit. It's like really big, right? 24 feet. It may not matter all that much. Number one, Benavidez is really big. Number two, he connects the correct footwork structure quite often and can find ways to control the line quite actively. So anyway, my pick is Benavidez. I do think that maybe the first and second round are going to be like, I don't want to say close, because I think Benavidez is going to land the harder and the cleaner shots. But you're going to be like, well, I could see kind of like Caleb Plant landed a couple of jabs. Maybe he pulls back and comes back with the hook when Benavidez is thinking it's going to be a jab. Maybe he lands a couple of shots. But for the most part, I also think that Caleb Plant is going to use more technique. He's going to be using more stress. He's going to be using more energy because he tries to always stay bladed. He's going to take more punches on average. And I don't know if he's going to get knocked out. I don't know. But he's definitely going to take a beating at some points in this fight. But he's a strong guy. He's really strong. He has a good kinetic chain. He's probably not going to get like super wobbly, even if he does go down. So this might wind up having to be a fight that the corner has to stop. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I'm picking David Benavidez basically by ass whooping. If you watch it live, it might seem close, but when this is a kind of fight where I think when you rewatch it, you're just like, nah, man, I think Plant might have just got smoked. So, anyway, those are my thoughts on the fight. Yeah, if you're interested in learning the Fouts Boxing combat system, it's all about using the correct body mechanics to do everything, to learn everything. Get on the line, strike, get off the line, set up your pull counters, set up your any kind of counter, your slip counters. Get into position so that you're always in position to land your most powerful punches. To be honest, it's really groundbreaking stuff. You've never seen a training system like this before. Yeah, I am the first person to really figure out how all punching power works. So if you guys want to check it out, it's got great reviews. I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.